in terms of you as a person, obviously this from what I'm reading and what you're saying is this was a key moment in terms of your personal development as a leader, and has set you up in terms of some of the challenges that you're dealing with now and the opportunities. Is that fair to say? Or
I think so. Yeah, I think one thing that sticks out in my mind is that it'd never been done before, right? So sometimes I found myself talking to hundreds of leaders across the bank about a policy that had never been done, and being up on stage and being asked questions I didn't know the answer to, but I needed to know the answer to. It was really scary. Now I think I'd be more confident about saying, look, I don't know and I'll find out. But at the time I was petrified because I'd gone from being an expert in my recruitment role to something that had never been done before. So the ability to quickly grasp policy, concepts, details, and then articulate them to a room full of people who'd never heard of it either. I think that's a really good skill, and that's a skill still used now. The apprenticeship policy is so complicated. Trying to explain it to people, so it's a skill that's stood me in good stead. Yeah.
You left the banking sector and then you moved into sort of the trainee market. How was that transition, moving away from the banking arena and moving into the whole sort of skill sector?
Yeah, I think it's probably, I made that transition just before I started finished Lloyd's actually, because I think having done sort of like redeployment and exit management, and then I worked on part of the bank that was divested to TSB. I wanted a positive role, and I can remember sort of sitting down for lunch with a director who'd been hugely supportive of me early on in my career, saying, do you have anything positive? I want to do something that helps people grow. And she was like, do you know what we do actually? We've got an apprenticeship offering coming up. I think the HR director at the time had got up and said, look, we're going to do 500 apprenticeships. They'd heard that this was a good thing to do, right? So I was responsible for launching apprenticeships at Lloyd's, and I did that for like 6 years. So I did all the levy stuff, all the apprenticeship reforms when they came in, etc. So by the time that was done, I was ready to do something really different. And I didn't want to move to another apprentice employer. So one of our suppliers who worked for Knowledge Pool, now Capita, said, look, we've just won a new contract. It's provision of apprenticeships into or across the civil service. Do you want to come and try that? So that's when I moved, and I was there for 3 years, and it was great because it was a transition out of banking into a really great insight into how civil service works and government, etc. But working for a training provider was harder than anybody had, I suppose, told me it would be. I think you go as an apprentice employer where, the apprenticeship system, you can argue for or against this, is employer-led. But you go from a position where people seek out your views and they want your opinion as to how things should be done, into a training provider where actually there's a perception that they're just out for themselves, which is not true, by the way. And actually nobody wants to talk to you, right? So I was like in this position where I've got loads to say, no one wants to hear it, type of thing. And actually it's tough, right? They've got not a lot of money. Apprenticeship funding is not huge. It was really challenging. It's probably the most challenging, and actually COVID happened in the time I was there.
Canny Conversation Podcast Series 5 by Safaraz Ali.